So let's talk about this handgun. I've shot it a little bit, put it through some paces, and I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about it. And it's the CZ P-10F 9mm full size. I already did a video on this, kind of talking about first impressions and all that good stuff. And in that video, I said that I'll never touch a Glock again. And that statement still is true for me. After handling this, there's no reason for me to want to shoot a Glock. A Glock feels blocky in my hands compared to this. This thing is I think it takes what Glock did and it does it in such a better way. Much more refined. Do I think it's the top striker fired? No, not by itself. I think it shares the top spot with the VP9. Some of you guys know I really like the HK VP9. I think it's one of those things that, you know, it's one of those undersung or almost like an underdog. And it's weird talking about HK as an underdog, but the VP9, when you compare it to Glock, Glock is kind of the leader in the industry as far as just sales and availability. The HK is kind of an underdog in that aspect, and so is this, the CZ-P10. This thing is extremely controllable. It's ergonomic, it's easy to operate, and that's why I'm going to put it in the kind of sharing the #1 spot with the VP9. I have to say it. Everything on it, from the back strap, the trigger undercut here from the factory, the grip texture, which is aggressive but not too aggressive, the slide cuts, the operation, the ease of operation, the smoothness, the fact that it has metal sights with a ledge, which I really like, ambidextrous slide slap slide release. You can flip the magazine around. That's not an ambidextrous magazine release, but you can flip it around. 19 round magazine standard from the factory, so that means I can have a total of 20 rounds of boom right at my fingertips, and that's awesome. 9mm, nice caliber, very capable, easy to control, no recoil, no muzzle flip. I mean, this thing is like a Cadillac. It's just smooth. And I'm kind of kicking myself for not handling one of these sooner. When you look at a gun store display, if you go into a sporting goods store or a gun store, what have you, they have their handgun display. And normally how it goes is you'll see something like, you'll see a few Springfield XDs, you might see some M&Ps, you might see a few HKs, typically not a lot. In my area, you don't see a lot of HKs. You may see a spackling of Rugers, and some other brands here and there, maybe some Taurus or whatever. And then usually what you see is this whole section that's just dedicated to Glocks. And for good reason. I mean, Glocks are the #1 selling gun, it seems like, for striker fire. Their marketing is great. And they're a good gun. They really are. They're just not #1 in my eyes. You know, you see this whole thing and you see all these Glocks, and then you might see next to it just a CZ sitting there. And it looks kind of unassuming. There's really nothing that draws your eyes to it. The same with the VP9. VP9 doesn't really look, it has a little bit more flair, I guess, than a P10. But there's nothing really that draws you to it unless you got like a super tactical model setup. The same with the M&Ps. They all just kind of look like striker fired. And because you have this huge case of Glocks, you tend to get drawn to the Glocks. It is what it is. At least, and that's just my little viewpoint on the whole thing. So these are kind of unassuming, and I would just kind of pass them by. I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, it's a CZ. And honestly, when I look at this versus something like a CZ75, the real nice CZ75 models they have, you know, all those types of guns that look so polished and so epic compared to this, that's what, when I see a CZ, that's what my eyes get drawn to, is a real nice looking CZs, not this. But after finally looking at it close up, handling it, and now shooting it, putting it through its paces, this is an awesome gun, and I will recommend it every single time. Now the P-10F, this is the full size, 19 round. When I do see these, I see more commonly the P-10C, which is the compact model. And that makes more sense because of the everyday carry, concealed carry market. It just makes more sense, and that is a little bit more of a capable gun to have for that role. So, got it. But this thing, I mean, if you want to get your hands on more of a full-size handgun, this thing is awesome. You are not going to be regretted. Reliability is there. This thing will just flat out run, and it's been shown on many YouTube channels. I think there was a couple earlier models that had some issues, but that got ironed out. That's nothing new. Every handgun manufacturer goes through that. So no issues there. The current models, I mean, I'll have no problems recommending a P-10 to anybody. The just the overall feel, everything about it, how smooth the slide operates, that will be good for people that might have wrist issues, muscle weakness issues. That's a good thing. The biggest selling point of this, not only the ergonomics, but the trigger. This trigger is so much better than the Glock trigger right off the box, or right from the factory out of the box. So here's my take-up right here. You see right there, there's my take-up. This has a standard safe action trigger, whatever you want to call it. But there's the wall right there. And there's my press. I'll cycle and I'll show you the reset. Nice tactile reset. I think this is the trigger that Glock wishes it had stock in its handguns. I mean, if Glock had a trigger like this, it would even make Glock's handguns tons better. But they don't. This is so much better than a Glock trigger. This thing is fast. It's very responsive. It's easy to stay on that wall. I really, really enjoy this trigger. Now, a lot of people, what they do is they buy like M&Ps and Glocks and all this stuff, and then the first thing they do, or one of the first things they do, is they replace the dang trigger. So you have to spend $500 on a gun, and then you replace, you know, with however many other hundreds of dollars to replace the trigger. You know, why don't you just find a gun that has a good trigger from the factory? That's my opinion. I mean, if you want to customize handguns, that's cool. I mean, there's all those Gucci handguns out there, and they look really cool, and they function really awesome. But right here, I have a handgun that has good texture grip, trigger guard undercut, nice high grip, good slide serrations, good sights, excellent trigger, awesome magazine capacity, good reliability, and it's all straight out of the box. So about the only thing that I could see myself doing with this is maybe getting extended base plates, because I like those. It's just me, my thing. Just to increase the capacity a little bit more. And maybe throw some night sights on here at some point, but I'm in no hurry. I'm really not. So in any case, overall, awesome gun. As far as cost, it's about $500, $450 to $500. Seems to be the average going rate for these things. I don't know now. At the time this video is made, you might see a little bit of, you know, the supply versus demand. Might be a little bit more expensive at the moment because of what's going on, but I expect that to even out a little bit, and I expect this to be a solid, again, $450 to $500 gun, at least in my area. So it does come with one extra magazine. So you get 2 magazines. You'll have to buy a holster on your own, but there's plenty of that. There's a good aftermarket out there. So if you, even if you want to take one of these and Gucci it all up, you can. There's tons of different models. There's the optics ready model. There's comps for these things, internal stuff, all kinds of neat things you can do to these things if you want. So anyway, it's a big recommend for me. I think this is going to share the top spot for the top striker-fired handguns along with the VP9. I can't say this is better than the VP9, and I can't say the VP9 is better than this, because they're both equally awesome in my eyes. They're just a little bit different. This is more of a no-nonsense, straightforward performer, and the VP9 performs straightforward as well, but it just seems to have a little bit more flair to it. It has that HK flair to it. So in any case, just whatever taste you have. So, all right. That's kind of my little overview of this thing. It's awesome. Try it out. If anything, try the trigger. The trigger is epic. Hope you liked the video. Feel free to chime in with your own thoughts, whether good or bad, on these things. And as always, stay safe out there.